Welcome in. We're live once again on Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Hope everybody out there is having a phenomenal Thursday, and no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, we appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. We went live yesterday and had a great show on tap, and today we're going live once again to talk about the latest with James Harden. I pushed out a video a little bit earlier with the latest on him, Tyrese Maxey, maybe taking a shot at Glenn Rivers and Nick Nurse, spilling the beans on Filip Petrusev and him potentially making the Sixers roster. Then I saw this report coming from The Athletic that James Harden still wants to leave Philadelphia. He still wants to get traded, and there is one destination that he is eyeing. It is the Los Angeles Clippers. As for the latest here on Harden, opted into his contract on June 29th, and in the process asked for a trade. Not happy with Daryl Morey, quote, keeping him in the dark in the lead up to free agency. It's essentially a one-year deal for Harden, worth $35.5 million, and the Clippers all along have been the most talked about team. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. They certainly need a point guard who can pressure the rim, initiate the offense. I think that Harden would be a solid fit if the Clippers did retain and keep Kawhi Leonard as well as Paul George. But Harden also grew up in the Los Angeles area. So as his playing career kind of dwindles to a certain degree, entering his age 34 season, does the Beard want to go back home, chase that championship that he has not won yet in his hometown of Los Angeles? We're only getting started today. That's a preview of what's to come. But first, where are you watching from? People getting that notification, starting to pile into our live show here. Let us know where you're at. We're emanating live from the Chat Sports studios here in Dallas, Texas. I'm from Westchester, Philadelphia, but this is where our studios are. So where are you? Let us know in the chat. We'll start to give you some shout-outs here. Tommy Velasquez tuned in once again. He was with us yesterday, watching from Florida. We have Corp Edits, who's in Philadelphia. Rumple Foreskin saying, that's facts right there. Harden can't chase anything when he disappears in the postseason. Fair point. M. Scott Lawrence watching from Maryland. Giordano Molina kicking it with us from North Philly. Used to live on 19th and Cecil B. Moore. Philly from Sixers, Eagles fanatic, Little Rock, Arkansas from Sejol. Australia in the house from Justin Hess. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Oi, oi, oi. Producer Trizzy Trace to my left here. He's here with me as well. Kevin Sweet, Doylestown is the hometown, but currently in Los Angeles. Albert Rice, our Super Chat MVP yesterday, watching us from Chicago. We also have Northeast Philadelphia from James Freeman.
Also, guys, we got to get this James Harden news out to everyone,
yep.
All of the Sixers fans. So hit the thumbs up icon, keep the chat peppered up, so that way we can get all the Sixers fans in this chat. Let's get it going.
Continue to let us know where you're at. Maya's World was also watching yesterday's show, tuned in from Columbia, South Carolina. So let's continue to comb through the latest with James Harden, and then we'll go into further detail here with everything that this might mean for Harden, the Sixers, and the rest of the NBA, as well as some trade targets that if the Sixers were to trade Harden to Los Angeles, they could get back. So this report coming from Sam Amick of The Athletic, he said today, Harden's stance has not changed. A source close to him told The Athletic he still wants to leave Philadelphia. He's still upset with how Morey handled his situation heading into possible free agency last month. And even with the recent revelation that Harden attended the same NBA Players Association party as Sixers co-star Joel Embiid and former Sixers owner Michael Rubin in Vegas, he's still determined to start next year in a Clippers jersey. So Bobby Marks really, at the start of these James Harden trade discussions, had talked about the Clippers being the most realistic scenario. When Adrian Wojnarowski broke the news actually 2 Thursdays ago, we went live, and he had mentioned the Los Angeles Clippers, the New York Knicks. Those were the 2 teams that had been mentioned in some of these James Harden trade discussions. And if you want to get on the show today, a couple of ways for you to do that. Use the hashtag Sixers, better yet Super Chat, to ask me anything. And also, if you want us to drink, you send in the Super Chats. We're going to have a lot of fun. So I also want to talk about this here because if the Sixers bring back James Harden as well as Tobias Harris, they might run it back, and it's hard for the fan base to buy in. But also, they would be entering the final years of their contract. So then in 2024, they would get rid of Tobias Harris's cap number of about $39 million. Harden's worth $36.5, $35.5. They would have a lot of cap space to spend next year in free agency for a free agency crop that's better next year as compared to what it was in 2023. But if he does get dealt to the Los Angeles Clippers, Los Angeles does have some intriguing trade assets that Daryl Morey could be interested in, led by the two star players in Paul George as well as Kawhi Leonard. Norman Powell would be a solid backup plan, but I'm not sure if Morey would want to trade Harden for Norm Powell as the headliner in that deal, because Morey always likes to go star for star. Terrence Mann, very solid young player. I would not hate a backcourt of him and Tyrese Maxey, two players who you can continue to build around. Nishan Bones-Hyland, fun player out of VCU, went to Denver. Denver traded him away at the NBA trade deadline. He's a guard who can come in off the bench and get a bucket. Those are the marquee Clippers trade targets. The secondary Clippers trade targets who could be included in a deal: Marcus Morris, North Philadelphia zone; Robert Covington, former Sixer, 3-and-D player; Nicholas Batum, a stretch big; and then Jason Preston, the guard. So those are some secondary Clippers trade targets. Batum, by the way, forward center, Trace, if we want to change that as well. So those right there, the marquee and secondary Clippers trade targets that the Sixers could look to bring in for James Harden. Here is our Super Chat menu for today. It's Thirsty Thursday. We're always down to have a party. If you send us in $5, give you a beer cheers. $10, I'll do 10 jumping jacks. $20, the Patron is back. We'll take some shots. $50 for a beer bong. $100 for a shotgun. That right there is our Super Chat menu. We have him saying trade Tobias and get Harrison Barnes. Because Barnes signed that deal with Sacramento, can't get traded until January. I thought that could have been a sign-and trade when free agency started, but Sacramento brought him back. Rumple Foreskin, do you think it's time to trade everyone and blow it up all again? No, I'm not at that point yet. Joel Embiid is coming off an MVP season. You still have Tyrese Maxey. If the Sixers do run it back with Harden as well as Toby, they're going to win more than 50 games. Like, they're going to be a top 3-4 seed in the Eastern Conference. They're going to be fun, but the big question, can they get over the hump and get past the second round for the first time since 2001? Tony Wiley, Miami Heat are about to get Dame. If they want to get past that team, the Sixers better get rid of Harden and get some solid, lengthy, versatile wings to stop that team. You make some good points because the Sixers, they don't have the dogs, they don't have the horses defensively to stop Jimmy Butler, who will snatch their souls any chance he gets, or Damian Lillard. So then you'd look at an Eastern Conference landscape in which Miami, better than Philadelphia; Boston, better than Philadelphia. I think Milwaukee in a 7-game series, most likely better than Philadelphia. The predicament that Daryl Morey is in right now is probably this. If we trade away Harden and we don't get a star, and the package is something along the lines of Norm Powell, Robert Covington, Marcus Morris, Terrence Mann would be a huge win. Does that move the needle? And then are we better than we were last year? That's probably the predicament that Daryl Morey is kind of canvassing right now and looking at. Thomas Bridges, the legend. If the Clippers don't offer Kawhi or PG, why not a Raptors trade for Siakam as well as filler? I wouldn't hate Siakam. The issue, though, Siakam and Tobias Harris on the floor together at the same time, that could get a little bit weird, and I'm not sure what the floor spacing would be. Now, if you traded Harris for Siakam, that's something that I would actually be a fan of, and that's something that we've discussed. Larry Love, Portland Trailblazers, not interested in Tyler Hero, so I don't see a deal happening unless they get a third team. As of right now, Miami is not getting Dame. And that's really been the paper trail that we've been following, is that the Miami Heat, and I've said this too, why would the Portland Trailblazers take 30 cents on the dollar if they're not going to get a good package back for Damian Lillard, who averaged the most points of his career last year? Yes, he's a little bit older, 32 years old, a lot of mileage on the tires, but if they're trading him away and they're trying to rebuild, And they have Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simon, Shaden Sharp, a couple of good young pieces. They want draft capital and they want player capital so that they can be competitive in the Western Conference here in the next several years. They're not going to trade, nor should they trade Dame for 30 cents on the dollar. So that trade with the Heat doesn't make a lot of sense unless you're getting back Hero and or Bam Adebayo, and the Miami Heat are not going to include Bam Adebayo in that deal. Now, if Miami gives up a bevy of future first-round assets, then maybe they are able to convince them into making that deal. But I just never have thought that the Miami Heat have the best trade assets. And what do the Trailblazers owe Dame? Yes, he was loyal to that organization, but he signed that contract extension that has him tied to Portland. Their job as an organization and as a basketball unit is to get the best package back for Damian Lillard as possible. Anything less than that, that is malpractice for basketball operations. Brian Pearson, 2 first-round picks for Kyrie Irving. Again, he can't be traded until January. These players who just signed can't be traded until January. If we had to trade Harden and Tobias is a trash bag. His contract stinks. We'd make great moves in free agency to help this team get a superstar when we send them out. This is what I'll say about Tobias Harris, expiring deal. And if he went to a lot of other teams across the NBA, like he would average 20 points per game, 45% from the field, 40% from three. He's a quality player, but for the Sixers, he is overpaid for the production that he gives you. He comes up short in playoff games, not a great defender, and he's a bad fit. So oftentimes it feels so awkward when Tobias Harris is on the floor. 134 people watching live. We want more people in here. And if we want to make this a crazier 76ers Now live, we need more people to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Let's get up to 50 likes here as soon as possible. We always shoot for a 50% viewer participation rate. So with 133 people watching live, how many likes can we get in the next minute here? And then we'll start the official show. How many likes can we get in the next minute? And then we will officially start the show. 141 people watching live. You see what happens when you like the video? We're up to 32 likes. Can we get to 50 in the next minute? And if you want to send us in a tip, super chat donation, we certainly appreciate that as well. It's the rectangular box with the $sign through it. We're up to 40 likes right now. Can we get to 10 more? We're 25 seconds into this minute shot clock. Do not disappoint me, my fellow Sixers brethren. Come on, like the video. Let's get to 50 likes before we start. Plug me in. Said Clippers have nothing that we need. Just gave you 26 likes. Thank you, Plug Me In. I appreciate that. 15 seconds left. We're 6 likes away from 50. Show up. Show out. 10 likes away. Got to get to 50. We're 3 away.
Hit
like the video.
Button.
Let's
Hit
talk some Sixers.
Button.
Boom. We got there with 2 seconds to spare. Appreciate y'all. All right. The official show is about to start. We're going to go through everything on James Harden here. Prepare for that loop cut just in case. And the official show, 76ers Now Live, begins right now. Let's get to the latest here on James Harden. You're watching Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Appreciate all of you for being a part of the show and hanging out with us. According to a report from The Athletic, James Harden still wants to leave Philadelphia, and he wants to play for the Los Angeles Clippers. His stance has not changed in wanting to get traded by Daryl Morey, given the way that Daryl Morey handled the situation heading into NBA free agency. A whole lot to talk about on the show today, so stay tuned. First, though, whenever the Sixers do make a move, and if they do trade James Harden, we're going to talk about it right here on the program. We're approaching 12,000 subscribers. It's been a blast to grow this channel. Let's continue to grow our 76ers Now community. Hit that sub button for year-round coverage that's informative, entertaining, and insightful. All right, the latest on Harden here. So 2 weeks ago, he opted into his contract on June 29th, and then he asked for a trade. We went live that day after the report from Adrian Wojnarowski, and at the time, the 2 teams that were interested in him from the jump, Los Angeles Clippers and the New York Knicks. With Harden opting into the final year of his deal, he's basically playing on a 1-year contract worth $35.5 million. And from the beginning of this, the Clippers have always been the most talked about team. They need a guy who can pressure the rim. They need a point guard who can initiate the offense, set things up, a solid distributor, especially if they hold on to Kawhi Leonard as well as Paul George. Russell Westbrook was able to do that to some degree last year, but James Harden would certainly be an upgrade as a guy who had a career best assist-to-turnover ratio last year, led the NBA in assists, shot the second best percentage from three, and would be a good fit alongside Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And a reason why Harden might want to go to the Los Angeles Clippers, he grew up in the LA area. So this report coming from Sam Amick of The Athletic, and it goes as such: Harden's stance has not changed. A source close to him told The Athletic he still wants to leave Philadelphia. He's still upset with how Daryl Morey handled the situation heading into possible free agency last month. And even with the recent revelation that Harden attended the same NBA Players Association party as Sixers co-star Joel Embiid and former Sixers owner Michael Rubin in Vegas during the Summer League, he is still determined to start next year in a Clippers jersey. And that's not the only party that Harden attended with some of his current teammates who could be former teammates. He was at Michael Rubin's all-white party in the Hamptons with Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris. He was seen having a one-on-one conversation with Sixers owner Josh Harris. So my thoughts on this, they've certainly been ongoing, right, as we get more information, because information can change context here. Is this trade request for real? Or is James Harden in his feelings looking for leverage here? He doesn't have much leverage, but the remaining leverage that he has is he trying to strong-arm the Sixers with that leverage. I also think that James Harden, somewhat of a sensitive guy, and a guy who, when he doesn't get his way, he pouts, he has bad body language, and he stops trying. We have literal proof of this with the Houston Rockets when he gained weight, with the Brooklyn Nets when he demanded a trade, and now, third team, in as many stops, he is once again asking to get dealt. This is what we do know about this entire situation. Daryl Morey is not trading James Harden for cents on the dollar. He was so patient with Ben Simmons, whose value was diminishing and was worse at the time than Harden's is now, even though Harden is entering his age 34 season and Ben Simmons is still in his mid-20s. But Daryl Morey was able to get back Harden for a guy who literally did not play a minute that year in Ben Simmons. So he's going to wait this out, and he's going to be patient about this, just like he was with that Ben Simmons situation. More from The Athletic here. Despite all of that relevant history, and in spite of the fact that Morey may know Harden and all of his complexities better than anyone in the NBA, rival executives with whom I spoke with at the Summer League were universally convinced that the Sixers are now attempting to keep James Harden. Discontent be damned. The sluggish trade talks between the Sixers and the Clippers about Harden would seem to support this stance. Morey is known to be asking for the kind of return that, as of Tuesday afternoon, left a strong impression that he had no genuine interest in getting a deal done anytime soon. And that goes back to the original point. Daryl Morey is going to wait this out until he believes he is getting equal value back for James Harden, who had a good year last year, but once again, he fell apart in the NBA playoffs. So today's poll question is this: do you want James Harden back on the Sixers? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. We're live right now. I'm looking at the live poll. 72% saying no thus far. What's interesting about this is that Harden comes out, he requests the trade, and the whole reason why Daryl Morey kept Harden and his camp, quote, in the dark, was that they wanted to avoid tampering allegations that the NBA hit them with last year. And the reason they got hit with those tampering allegations is because they brought in P.J. Tucker and Daniel House, two guys who James Harden wanted on the Sixers roster. But now Word is that Daryl Morey is open-minded and having Harden return. Joel Embiid, in that interview with Rachel Nichols, said that he wants Harden back in Philadelphia. And during his introductory press conference, Patrick Beverley also asked James Harden, who he's really good friends with, to stay with the Sixers as well. And Harden was a reason why Beverley wanted to sign that one-year contract with Philadelphia. And I imagine that Daryl Morey here is holding out hope that they can reconcile this current rift. And I believe that they're going to be able to do that given the long history between these two, because Harden and Morey go way back. October of 2012, that's when Daryl Morey made one of the most significant trades in the history of the NBA, trading away Jeremy Lamb for a revolutionary offensive player in Harden. So that happened in October of 2012 when Morey made that deal with the Oklahoma City Thunder. In July 2017, Harden signed the richest deal ever at the time for any player in the history of the NBA. February of 2022, after Morey left Houston, comes to Philadelphia, trades away Ben Simmons, Andre Drummond, Seth Curry, future first-round picks for Harden. And then June of 2023, that's when Harden asked for a trade, and as of right now, he's still looking to get dealt. Something to also think about here is this. If James Harden and Tobias Harris do return, and the Philadelphia 76ers do decide to run it back, both Toby and the Beard are on expiring contracts. So a couple of things here. You get both of them back on an expiring contract. They could be motivated to get the bag next offseason to try to increase their value. For Harden, trying to prove to other teams that he can still play with all the mileage. And for Tobias Harris, trying to prove that, yeah, I may have been overpaid, but I can still be a really good player in this league. The other part of that is if they run it back, Harden and Harris return, in 2024, you're getting rid of Harden's salary of $35.5 million and Toby's salary worth near $40 million. That's a lot of money to open up to surround Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey with the necessary pieces to try to compete for an NBA championship if the Sixers are not able to do that this year. And the free agency crop next year is pretty solid. Your unrestricted free agents, and then we'll take a look at the restricted free agents. Jaylen Brown, we'll see what happens with him. And if he signs that extension with the Boston Celtics, I imagine he is going to. Homegrown talent who has really gotten better and improved throughout his NBA career. DeMar DeRozan also going to be on the open market. Pascal Siakam is a player who I wouldn't hate having on the Sixers. He has familiarity with Nick Nurse, good defender, but I wouldn't trade Harden for him. I would try to trade Tobias Harris for him. And then Klay Thompson, also entering the final year of his contract. And then you shift gears and you take a gander at the restricted free agents. Tyrese Maxey, if the Sixers do not give him that extension, there's an October deadline for that. If they don't get a deal done by then, he becomes that restricted free agent. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis, all potential unrestricted free agents if they opt out of the final years of their contracts. Let's take a look at this glass half full approach, right? If Harden does come back, it's for 1 year. On the bright side, you get a guy who's motivated, who's trying to play well, who comes into the season in good shape, and you have that level of synergy, continuity, camaraderie, because he's played with Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, and Tobias Harris, if he returns as well. The negative of Harden coming back, this would be glass half empty, is that he's disgruntled, and he stops trying, and he comes into camp in bad shape, and he doesn't have that motivation. Now, I would find that hard to believe. If Harden were to take that mental stance when he's playing alongside a good friend in Embiid, they've been able to develop a good relationship. He's been a little bit of a mentor for Tyrese Maxey, but as Patrick Beverley and PJ Tucker, are they going to allow Harden to act a fool? And is Nick Nurse going to tolerate that when he's always been about accountability? And that's what he talked about on the Tyrese Maxey podcast. There are also concerns about Harden declining as a player, and this would fit under the bill of the glass half empty approach, is that Harden might be getting close to being washed. But if he comes back on 1 year, then you can let go of him next year, free up some money, and sign a better free agent. The analytics show that Harden's game starting to decline a little bit. Harden averaged 13.5 drives to the basket per game last year, 10 fewer than he did 5 seasons ago. He scored fewer points off those drives than he had since 2013-2014. Nearly a decade. A career-low 25% of his shot attempts came at the rim. Second Spectrum, they track a stat called blow-by rate. It's a measurement of how often a ball handler dusts and gets by his defender off the dribble. In his last full season in Houston, Harden blew by his defender 10.1 times per 100 drives. Last year in Philly, the rate was down to 3.7 per 100. So that goes to show you the play starting to slip a little bit, the athletic explosion starting to go away a bit as James Harden gets a little bit older. He is also 7th in most minutes played among active players right now in the NBA. So with that, another question for the audience here. Get that comment section going once again. We're also 30 likes away from 100. Help us get there on our live stream. Grade James Harden as a player right now. 1 to 100. I know a lot of y'all like to play NBA 2K on the sticks, so have some fun with that. Last 4 years for the Beard. 2 of them, or at least the last year and a half with Philadelphia here. It's crazy that as recently as 2019-2020, Harden was putting up insane numbers. And then he gets disgruntled with Houston, forces a trade to the Brooklyn Nets, stopped trying at the end of that Rockets tenure. The hamstring injury started to come to the forefront, and he really hasn't been the same player since. But in 2019-2020, 34 points per game, 7.5 dimes, 6.5 rebounds, and shot 35.5% from 3. The following year, split between Houston and Brooklyn, 24.5 points per game, almost 11 assists. So the distributing numbers became a little bit better when he's playing with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, even though they didn't actually play that much together. That's why all of those moves became a disaster for Brooklyn. Now none of them are on that team. 8 rebounds, 36.5% from 3. His first season with Philly was okay, and then this past year, led the league in assists, highest mark since 2020-2021, solid rebounder as he always is because he's always going to pad his stats. And then almost 39% from 3, the second best mark in his NBA career. Now, if Harden does get traded to the Los Angeles Clippers, who could the Sixers get back in a trade? We have you covered here. That's why you subscribe to the show for the best Sixers talk and NBA talk on YouTube. Marquee Clippers trade targets. Let's start here. Paul George, excellent two-way wing. He's been injured far too much throughout his career, but when he's on the floor, he is a lethal player who can get a bucket offensively, has a great offensive bag, and then defensively can lock down some of the premier offensive players in the game. Kawhi Leonard, value has diminished a little bit, but we've seen that Nick Nurse was able to win a championship with Kawhi, and Kawhi that year won NBA Finals MVP. A lot of people like to say that Nick Nurse runs his superstars into the ground and he plays them a bunch of minutes. He didn't do that with Kawhi. I imagine he's not going to do that with Joel Embiid, and it worked in Toronto. It can work in Philadelphia. Norm Powell is a player who I've continued to talk about as one of the more realistic trade targets on the Clippers that the Sixers could get back for Harden, because I don't believe that Steve Ballmer is going to be willing to give away Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. They probably want James Harden to be that guy who can pressure the rim with those two wings. Terrence Mann and a backcourt between him and Tyrese Maxey certainly intrigues me. 2 very solid young players. And then Nishan Bones Highland, fun player out of ECU, drafted in the first round by the Denver Nuggets, traded at the NBA trade deadline last year. A fun Lou Williams type of player who is not afraid to get a shot up from really anywhere on the floor, but sometimes if he's cold, he could be a detriment on the offensive end. So you go from marquee Clippers trade targets to secondary Clippers trade targets. Let's just say you get a Norm Powell. Maybe you can get 2 of these players in that deal as well. Norm Powell and Terrence Mann would be a massive win for Daryl Morey, in my opinion. Marcus Morris wouldn't be a bad big, although the Sixers have a little bit of a jumble in that front court. Robert Covington, we know him well, solid 3-and-D wing. Nicholas Batum, he could stretch the floor as a big with a lot of high leverage playoff experience. And then Jason Preston, first-round pick, played his college ball at Ohio, made it to the NCAA tournament. He wasn't even recruited out of high school. Cool story for him. Season cut short last year due to injury. So which player or players would you want back in a James Harden trade? Just let me know down in the comment section the package that you think would be ideal for James Harden, because he can still play. I don't think that you're going to get a Paul George or a Kawhi Leonard, but can you get a solid package back for a guy who's been productive, who throughout his career has played a lot of basketball? While he's had some no-shows in the playoffs, he's come up short. He at least has a lot of playoff level experience. I mean, you look at the numbers of what he's done with Philadelphia in both his half season in 2021 and 2022, full season this past year, and in the NBA playoffs. We know he's going to distribute the basketball, and I give him credit for kind of extending his prime years and still having that really good vision. We know that James Harden is going to be able to score it, even though, as evidenced by the analytics that we talked about a little while ago, his blow-by rate is down, finishing around the rim, not as efficient as what he used to be. But if he can make up for that lack of burst and finishing in the trenches, with him being a good three-point shooter, 38.5% this past year, then you can certainly get by if you're Harden with being a productive offensive player. And I think that he would be a good fit with Kawhi and PG-13. In the playoffs, yes, his numbers do go down, but the pace changes. You allow a little bit more physicality. And Joel Embiid, frankly, needs to play better in some of these pressure cooker moments. The pros and cons of Harden's game. We've broken down this, bad English, a couple of times here on the show. Elite assist man, very, very good vision. The two-man game that he can run with bigs, but also finding shooters on that arc is special. I thought that last year the Sixers offense was at its best when Harden was like the number 3 scorer behind Embiid and Maxey. When he tries to become that go-to ISO guy, it gets painful to watch. The ball dies. The possessions get stale because he doesn't have that dribble drive game that he used to have. Last year, the numbers, the slash line, pretty good. 21 points per game, 44% from the field, 38.5% from 3. In Game 1, was awesome against Boston with that game winner. Comes back in Game 4. He does it again, 45 and 41 in those games respectively, and looked to be vintage James Harden. That Game 1 may have been the best playoff game of his career because it had the game winner as well. But then in Games 5, 6, 7, he fell off a cliff. He still is a 3-level scorer, even though the finishing ability isn't what it was. And then the concerns here. That's why they're in red. 33 years old, entering his age 34 season. How will he age as a guy who, on a whim, will go out to Las Vegas, hit up the strip club, and has his jersey retired in a Houston strip club? Like, the guy likes to have fun. You can't really knock him on that too much. He's living life, and any of us would like to live it with the amount of money that he has. But you also have a duty. You have a job to be in peak conditioning as an NBA player, especially when you're on a max deal. Way too inconsistent, in my opinion. He'll have a great game. He'll have a bad game. That Boston series was really the epitome of who Harden has been in some of these critical moments. No championship pedigree, and I don't really like his personality. I know that Harden loves ball. Coming out of high school, he goes to Arizona State, and yes, he was a high pick by the Oklahoma City Thunder. But it's not like this guy had the athleticism and the explosion of a Russell Westbrook. It's not like he had this crazy natural gift when it comes to the game of basketball. You can tell that from the early part of his career with OKC through Houston, even now, he's had to be very technical with his own basketball development. He loves the game of ball. But for Harden, as he ages, it's going to become more and more important for him to put more into his body to extend some of these good years. Another reminder, subscribe to us here on 76ers Now. We've been doing a bunch of live shows, pushing out content and sometimes multiple shows every single day. This is your one-stop shop for the best Sixers coverage here on YouTube. I understand it's a competitive industry. There are so many content options out there. That's why I'm so grateful that you decide to hang out with us as we're approaching 12,000 subs. And if you want to interact with me, let me know what you think about the show. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Chase_Senior. It's the same handle on both social media platforms. $10 super chat coming in from the homie Larry Love. I think ultimately Nick and James don't mix. It's not a good fit. I think some of the things that Nick likes to do defensively doesn't fit Harden. It's better business-wise to move on from James. I agree. But if they don't get a deal that they feel as though is a quality deal for James Harden, will they move off of him? With the championship ready roster right now, or at least a roster that can compete to make a deep run in the playoffs. Because we know, Larry, that Daryl Morey isn't going to give them up for cents on the dollar. He's trying to extract and maximize that value as much as possible. And he will run the risk of Harden pouting his way out of Philadelphia if he feels as though a trade isn't up to par with his standards. It's a risk for sure. Now, I agree with you. When Nick Nurse had his introductory press conference, he was asked and then pressed by Howard Eskin, the radio goat in Philadelphia, about if he wanted James Harden back. And Nick Nurse didn't really give a direct answer. He did say, I've talked with James, I'd love to have him back, but I never got the sense. I was never convinced that Nurse really wanted Harden back. And it makes sense, right? Nick Nurse has his offensive style. James Harden has his. Nick Nurse preaches accountability. Harden never takes accountability. Nick Nurse, defensive-minded coach. James Harden has never really given that much effort on the defensive end. So Larry Love, you make some good points. Here's our Super Chat menu. Larry Love with the 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's our Super Chat menu right there. $5 for a beer. Cheers. $10 jumping jacks. $20. We have the Patron out. $50 for a beer bong. $100 for a shotgun. That right there, our Super Chat menu. We like to be interactive. We like to be fun. And you can't be scared on these YouTube streets. The Atlantean. Embiid is the most overrated player in the NBA. I simply disagree. Now, I will say this. I said that he deserved MVP, that he was the best big in the NBA over Nikola Jokic. With what the Joker did in the playoffs, the impact that he had, how he made his teammates better, all of the triple-doubles that he dropped, he's not the defensive player that Joel Embiid is. He's one of the best defensive players in the NBA. He is better than Joel Embiid. Is Embiid the most overrated player in the NBA? No. You don't finish runner-up in the MVP 2 straight years and then on that third season actually win the MVP if you're overrated. The guy at 7 foot has led the NBA in scoring the last 2 years. So you can't call a player like that overrated. Has he been disappointing in the playoffs? For sure. Has he been injured in the playoffs? Which you have to add context to that. Yes. Has he failed to get a lot of legitimate help from his teammates? That's also an issue. Daquan Adams, Embiid is a second-round bum. Yeah, a lot of Embiid haters in the chat. Look, he's going to go down as one of the greatest Sixers ever. One of my buddies here at Chat Sports, Harrison Graham, brought up a good talking point the other day. He said, is Joel Embiid a top 5 Sixer of all time? I said, no. Look, in no particular order, Allen Iverson, Dr. J, Wilt Chamberlain, Charles Barkley, Moses Malone. Those are 5 Sixers already that are better than Joel Embiid. Does he have to tap into that greatness and find a way to escape the second round? For sure. Otherwise, these questions are going to continue to haunt him and follow him. He's had some great playoff outings, but for the most part, he's been subpar in the playoffs. So you can't really run from that track record, and it's up to him to change that. Let's talk ball. If you want to ask me some questions, do so. Couple of ways for you to get involved here on the show. Use the hashtag Sixers or Super Chat to ask us anything right now. That is hashtag Sixers or Super Chat to get your questions and your comments featured right here on the show. Kyle Savage, Knicks ain't about that life. They should just give us Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson, believe it or not, you can disagree with me if you want, but those who know ball know he was a top 5 point guard last year. A top 5 point guard last year. The Knicks would be dumb to give up Brunson for James Harden. Brunson is a better player than James Harden. That's just the fact right now. He was awesome last year. And the championship pedigree, the leadership qualities that he brings, high school state champion, champion at Villanova, Western Conference Finals 2 years ago, this past year, led the Knicks to that deep run, and they almost beat the Miami Heat and were competitive against the Miami Heat. Went 6 games. Jalen Brunson's the dog. Him. Trade Tobias Harris and get Harrison Barnes. So that can't happen because Harrison Barnes signed that contract in free agency. The players who sign these deals can't be traded until January. That's just the rule here. Rumple Foreskin, do you think it's time to trade everyone and blow it all up again? I don't think we're at that point Joel Embiid, still the reigning MVP. You have Tyrese Maxey, who I think is a blossoming superstar in this league. You brought in Nick Nurse, who, in my opinion, is an upgrade over Glenn Rivers. New rule on the show, can't say Doc, because the only Doc in the history of the Sixers, as far as I'm concerned, is Dr. J. Julius Erving. So I wouldn't trade everyone. It's not time to blow it all up again. Now, after this year, if the Sixers have an ugly playoff showing, and if Joel Embiid is disgruntled, it will not surprise me if he demands a trade. Thomas Bridges, if the Clips don't offer Kawhi or Paul George, why not a Raptors trade for Siakam and filler? I would like a Tobias Harris trade for Pascal Siakam. I'm not doing James Harden for Pascal Siakam. I don't think that Siakam and Harris would coexist. Siakam as your 4 next to Embiid is a guy who can stretch the floor, play make a little bit, hit that mid-range, play some really good defense. I like that. But then with him stretching the floor, kind of demanding the ball, are we back at the same problem that we've had with Tobias Harris, where the fit is a little bit clunky and he's just that guy standing around when he's at his best when he's moving downhill? Martian Lynch, nice nickname right there. It's more likely the organization is waiting for these contracts to expire and have potentially 2 max slots for next offseason. Yeah, that's what I talked about several minutes ago. Like, that is a realistic scenario for Philadelphia here. They bring back Harden, they bring back Harris, they free up almost $60 million, and they try to get some superstars to surround Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey with next offseason. And if you're a star player, you're looking to chase a ring, Maxey and Embiid, it's a pretty solid team to go to. Continue to use hashtag Sixers or Super Chat to get on the show. $5 Super Chat. I'll be able to crack this drink right here. If we don't get any more questions, we're going to run it back and talk about the latest with James Harden here. So let us know. Hashtag Sixers or Super Chat if you want your questions answered here. Losing hope. Sixers screwed themselves not having a first-round pick for another 6 years. That doesn't help. And missing on some of these first-round picks hurts as well. Markelle Fultz over Jason Tatum, just not good. Crushes you. Trading away Mikal Bridges for Zaire Smith, awful. Bridges on this team would be incredible. What'd you say? Ah, that's funny. The Atlantean fanboy is blaming everybody but his MVP. I mean, you must not have ears to actually listen to what I'm saying. I've literally said that Joel Embiid has come up short. He's had some playoff no-shows. That's on him. He has to take accountability. He has to find ways to get over the hump. You're one of those YouTube guys who just wants to stir the pot. And that's cool. I appreciate you for watching the show. But just listen to the show and listen to what I say and actually spit facts and don't be a hater. Any more questions coming in? Daryl. I see Daryl's coming in. Peter Thurman is as well. Daryl, would you trade Harden for Terrence Mann and Norm Powell? Yeah, I was talking about this a little while ago when we talked about some of the Clippers' assets. Terrence Mann and Norm Powell together would be a great haul for Philadelphia, in my opinion. You get a guy in Norm Powell who can give you 20, and Terrence Mann, a young player who you can put in that backcourt with Tyrese Maxey, and they can continue to grow. Corbetts, the Sixers don't want to trade Harden to the Clippers because the Clippers do not have good assets. Solid assets, but you're right, not great assets, and that's a little bit of an issue. And then the real one, Peter Thurman. Who should the Sixers use the mid-level exception on? Man, like a Kelly Oubre, I guess. I'm not the biggest fan of his, but you need athletic wings. They failed to address that position the last couple of years, and it's been a problem. So Kelly Oubre Jr. might be one of those guys. He's just a little bit too inefficient for me. Honestly, Peter, there's not a player that I would love the Sixers to use that MLE on. Losing hope. Atlantean is definitely not a Philly fan. Yeah, he's probably from Atlanta, that fraudulent city that doesn't truly care about its sports teams. Hashtag Sixers or Super Chat.
Couldn't even hold a 25-point lead.
Couldn't even hold a 28-3 lead if you're from Atlanta. Use the hashtag Sixers or Super Chat to ask us anything. This is what I'm going to do right now. We're going to put up a 2-minute shot clock. And if anybody sends in a Super Chat within 2 minutes, we'll continue to hang out with everybody. If not, we're going to run it back, send the show on loop, and recap all of this James Harden stuff. So last call here for Super Chats, and if you send one in, we reset the clock, and we continue to chop it up with everybody. Kyle Savage, we need Westbrook's aggressiveness. So Russell Westbrook's aggressiveness is what's made him a great player. It's also been his biggest downfall because late in the game, he doesn't have a good feel for the game, and he never knows when to slow it down. Sometimes you can't be in attack mode. Sometimes you have to wait for the game to come to you, and you can't always dictate the pace. You have to slow things down to a certain degree and be able to bide some time, let the offense set up, and catch the defense off guard, all those things. Russell Westbrook is always going for the kill shot. He's always going for the hammer. That's what's made him a special player, but at the same time, that combined with him never developing his three-point shot is why he's kind of fallen off a cliff. Peter Thurman, a $20 Super Chat. We reset the shot clock here thanks to the Real One Rocco. We appreciate you, Peter. Patron shots for Peter. Call him Peter Patron. Cheers, brother. Cheers to everybody watching. Let's go. I got to go for a run after this, man. But I'm down to have some fun. Our Super Chat menu once again. We're going to reset the shot clock. It's up to 30 seconds here and counting. Inside 2 minutes, we get a Super Chat. We continue to chop it up with everybody. Outside of that, we're going to loop this piece. $5 beer cheers, you get the deal. 10 jumping jacks, 20 shots, 50 beer bong, 100 shotgun. Biggest Super Chat we've gotten on this channel is $50, by the way. Tobias Harris is a trash bag. Send him with Harden for a superstar and put Maxey at point guard. So the issue with Tyrese Maxey, he's more comfortable playing off ball. He did that at Kentucky. He's been at his best doing that in the NBA so far. I think he has the ability to play point guard, but his creation ability and vision, distributing skills, they're not what James Harden can bring to the table. Now, can he develop that part of his game? For sure. I mean, we see when he gets downhill at the head of steam, he's got that blow-by dribble drive that's impressive. Can really finish around the rim as well. And I like to touch around the rim too. Now, Harris, I'll continue to say him. I think that Harris is a better player than what people give him credit for. Not at damn near $40 million. He goes to a bad team out there. He's a walking 20 points per game, 45% on his field goals, 40% from three. On the Sixers, though, last year being a fourth option, when Doc Rivers had him standing idly in that corner, then yes, the fit does get clunky and he doesn't fit. Now, can Nick Nurse bring the best out of Toby? The last time that Harris was on an expiring deal was when the Sixers traded for him. He was awesome with the Clippers. Borderline all-star. In fact, I thought he should have been an all-star that year. He averaged more than 20 points per game, 50% from the floor, and 43% on his threes. Can he get back to that? That'd be a huge lift for the Sixers team. You a fraud. The Sixers fans know that the players in the Clippers rumors are the ones that hold the Clippers down when Paul George and Leonard miss all those games. Make the trade, Sixers. So you're talking about holding it down, not holding the team down. I agree. They hold it down. Now, part of the reason why the Clippers have remained competitive, by the way, we reset the shot clock with another Super Chat. That's also 10 jumping jacks, is Ty Lue. So Ty Lue is one of the best coaches in the NBA. So he's able to maximize and lift up that roster despite Paul George and Kawhi Leonard rarely ever playing with one another. And when they're right, when they're healthy, that's a special 1-2 punch. But they're injured far too much, and Kawhi Leonard kind of flaky. It's unfortunate because he's such a great player. All right, $10 Super Chat. That's 10 more jumping jacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, Super Chat menu. I still haven't been able to crack my drink for a $5 Super Chat. How about this? I'll shotgun. I will shotgun. Oh, Izzy B! Trace was just asking you about you yesterday. Trace was like, yo, where's Izzy been? Izzy's right here.
What's up, Izzle? How you doing, girl?
Resetting the clock. Thanks to Izzy B. Hi. Miss me? We always miss you, Iz. Good to see you back in the chat. Good to see you back in the house. Appreciate you, Brody. /sis. Hi, miss me?
What's
Yes,
up, Izzle?
Izzy. We always miss you. We always miss you.
What's up, girl?
Dark Armies.
100.
You're typing $100, shotgun and a beer. But let's do this. 35 seconds on the clock and ticking. If we get a 20 inside those 2 minutes, I'll shotgun this beer. How about that? 20 inside these 2 minutes, I'll shotgun
That's
for
like
y'all.
60% off.
Larry Love with another question coming in. We'll pop that up here on the show as well. I like this. I think OG Anunoby for Tobias Harris is a really good swap. OG Anunoby is a hell of a player. Some injury concerns the last few years. The Toronto Raptors, and this is why I love the Nick Nurse hire, the Toronto Raptors have done one of the best jobs of developing talent among all teams in the NBA. Toronto Raptors, Miami Heat. You look at what the Heat have done with guys like Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, identifying talent and developing. How about what the Raptors have been able to do? Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, Chris Boucher, Precious Achiuwa, Fred VanVleet. Like, they have done a great job of finding talent, grooming them. OG Anunoby, lastly, one of those players in that developmental program who's become an excellent player. The numbers that he's been able to increase upon over the last few years has been impressive. He was looked at as a long, lengthy athlete at first. He's added some creation ability, turned into a pretty good three-point shooter, and a guy who is one of the best wing defenders in the sport. Toby, for him, I think would be an awesome fit. An absolutely awesome fit. Losing hope! $20 super chat. Shotgun coming up. The real one recently had a baby, and he has one of the best tattoos that you'll ever see. Philadelphia themed, as you can see. He's one of our Eagles Now Real One viewers. Thank you for that 20. And then Izzy B
Izzle,
with the $20 super chat. It's almost college football season. What teams do y'all cover? Us here at Chat Sports, Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State a little bit under the Chat Sports umbrella.
General stuff.
And then we cover general stuff. For instance, Pat Fitzgerald let go by Northwestern. The next day, we put together the top candidates to replace Pat Fitzgerald. See you, bro. I'm good. Thanks.
What's
All
up,
right.
Izzle?
You want to take this Patron shot, Trez?
I would love to.
All right.
I would love to. Just give me the bottle. I don't need a glass. I'm doming this.
Give
piece.
him the bottle.
I'm done
Let
with
the
this
body
piece.
waddle.
Don't act like a snobby model. You just hit the lotto.
Hopping in my Tahoe. All right.
Oh, it was way bigger than I thought it was going to be.
Reset the clock. Izzy losing hope.
Woo!
Appreciate y'all. We are $19 away from $100 in super chats. Can we get there? Trace takes another shot if we get there. Trace takes another shot if we get there. Continue to ask us questions too, by the way. You can flash that up. Hashtag Sixers. We're chopping it up with the audience. How long did we talk about Harden for on that cut? About 20 minutes?
Yeah. Loop is at about 45 right now.
Dope. Shotgun for the real ones. Thanks for tuning into the show, supporting what we do.
Rip it, tip it, sip it. Let's go. Chug, 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 chug. Clockwork.
Clockwork, baby. Tommy Velasquez, 76, 76, 76, 76, 76, 76. Plug me in. I got almost no hope for the team, unfortunately. I hate to be negative. That's coming from Below 95. I get it, man. Look, I don't know how old y'all are. And you can make that a weigh-in if you want. How old are you? We can gauge the demographic here. I'm 31 years old. This team has put me through so much heartache, so many difficult times, so many heartbreaks. You think about it over the years, right? I mean, outside of 2001, Allen Iverson had one great year as far as team success. Individually, fantastic seasons. He's my favorite athlete of all time alongside Brian Dawkins, right? But outside of that season, the Sixers were pretty mid. Late 90s, they were awful. 2001, they make it to the NBA Finals. They lose in 5 games to the Lakers. They won that game one. They give us hope, and then the Lakers pulled off the gentleman's sweep. That was the only game, that entire playoff run, that Kobe and Shaq and the Lakers lost that year. And then after that, Sixers haven't made it past the second round since that year. And you think about some of the heartbreaks that have happened and occurred since then. Some first-round exits against the Celtics and second-round exits for AI. And then, 2012 when Derrick Rose tore his ACL. You won that series, but you were an 8 seed. You beat the 1-seeded Bulls. You didn't have a realistic chance of winning a championship when Doug Collins was the coach and Drew Holiday and Andre Iguodala were your top 2 options. But you lost in 7 games to the Boston Celtics, who you have not beaten in a playoff series since 1982. And then this whole Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons era, it's been brutal. Losing that series to the Atlanta Hawks, awful. You lost that 26-point lead in Game 5. And then you lost that series at home in 7. You had the quadruple bounce before that in 2019 against the Raptors. That was a heartbreaker. I think that the Sixers 2 seasons ago should have beaten the Miami Heat. That was a bad loss in my opinion, even though the Heat were a really quality team. I thought the Sixers were better. And then this past year, you're up 3-2 against Boston. You're up with a couple of minutes to go. You have an opportunity to close the door and get to the Eastern Conference Finals, where you would have taken on a Heat team that you could have beaten. Jason Tatum goes nuclear, and then he's the Sixers' daddy in 7 games. Absolutely sucks. All right, so let's see. How old are people here? So Peter Thurman is 51. He's dealt with a lot of heartbreak, but Peter, you were around for the last title. You were still young, though, at that point, right? 83, 40 years ago. So you still remember it at least. Dark Army's 17. Reese is 29, been a Sixers fan since first grade. The Atlantean, Sixers got you looking 41, bro. See, I'm always told I look younger than I am, but thank you so much. I appreciate that, Atlantean. You're just going to continue to be a troll. I love it, brother. Losing Hope, 36. Izzy B, older than 31. B-Low, 28. So, there you go. What'd you say? It really is. All right, so we're 19 away from $100 in Super Chats. Can we get there? Another 2-minute shot clock. If we get there, Trace and I taking shots, and then we'll sign off. How about that? 19 away from 100. If we get there, we're taking shots, we're signing off, and we're going to enjoy our Thirsty Thursday. Peter Thurman, I remember going to the parade, walking down Broad Street to the vet. That's awesome, man. I need that in my life. Wayne Watson, 38 years old. Talk new CBA. Whew. That's some pretty nerdy stuff. So it's a lot of nerdy-ass information, but it's going to extend through 2030. New CBA, going to have some significant changes on how the NBA operates, kind of a soft, hard cap. There's that apron rule, which will limit teams from paying a lot of money to a lot of different players on the same roster. Franchises that exceed the tax threshold by more than $17.5 million trigger that second apron. With the new agreement, they'll forfeit their mid-level exception entirely. Beginning in 2024, 2025, they'll be able to send out players and sign and trade deals and cannot use cash in trades. So no more cash considerations. 30 seconds left. Can we get to 100? We're 19 away. Dark Armies wants a $5 beer cheers. You send us in a super, we'll stay live. We're kind of burning the midnight oil here. Everybody at the office is gone. We're still here grinding. Dark Armies. You want a $100 shotgun? Me too. All right, 10 seconds left, and then we'll do a little bit of a delay. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll give you about a 20-second delay here for those of you watching on delay. Super chats keep us live, baby. 19 away from 100. Oh! Losing hope! Losing hope! Losing hope! Losing hope! The man, the myth, the legend, the new daddy, losing hope with the fresh tat. He's Philly all the way. You see gritty on the tat, man. Let's go. Patron shots. And then we're going to hop on out of here. Cheers. You want one? Let's go. Another dubby from Plug Me In. Another stack. Izzy B, what are you saying wait for it for? What do you mean wait for it? Any more questions we can answer there, Trace? Hashtag Sixers. Dark Armies. Sixers need to get a new forward. Drop Harris for Kawhi Leonard. Look, in a dream scenario, I would take a chance on Kawhi. Nick Nurse knows how he works. He's a better player than Harris. Lack of availability is an issue. And can you imagine how Sixers fans would react to him with the load management, sitting out, and not apparently having like this love for basketball that made him a special player en route to 2 NBA Finals MVPs? Reese T, how y'all feel about Jaden Springer taking a starting spot? If y'all got some time, watch his highlights from the All-Star break till the end of last year. Amazing awareness and tendencies. I'm not going to look at what he did at the end of the regular season because I saw what he did. I honestly wasn't that impressed. But, Reese, don't call him Reese Hoskins. I was thoroughly impressed and have been thoroughly impressed with what he's been able to do in the Summer League. He didn't get a lot of action, not enough for me against legit competition in the NBA last year to make any estimation about what he can do. But for Springer, you know, what I've seen in the Summer League, and again, it's the issue with the lack of competitive nature in the Summer League. You're not going up against great players, but Springer, he's not a great lateral athlete when having the rock in his hands. He's a good vertical athlete. He's also thick, has a good frame. If he can hit a three-point shot, I'm intrigued. And he has some decent finishing ability. I never loved the offensive game at Tennessee, and he's a little bit slow with the basketball. That is an issue at the NBA level. But I like his size. I do like his athleticism. Izzy B, he's not going to be a starter, but a rotation player. That was on my bold predictions that I did yesterday. Izzy B still wants a job. Hey, you can apply for our job. We're hiring right now. Larry Love, another super. Good to hear from the legend, Larry. Got a lot of real ones in the house today. I'm 34. I remember the spoon. I felt the hurt.
Larry, you don't look a day over 26.
You know what sucks, too? We hired a new guy here. He started last week. Diehard Celtics fan. And I can't say anything other than the Celtics own the Sixers. And it pains me to my core. So, like, I'm an Eagles fan, right? I hate the Celtics more than the Dallas Cowboys. I really do. That's how much I despise that team. They've hurt me. These Sixers losses have hurt me. Kyle Savage is a good passer, too. Who? Springer? Not bad. You a fraud. You're doing a great job. Success brings jealousy. I love this channel. Many thanks. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. Look, if people ain't hating, you just ain't doing it right. That's really what it is. You know what I take pride in? Having some of the most successful channels on YouTube covering the NFL and NBA. So I can rest my head at night knowing that I bust my ass. Whenever the Sixers make a move, make sure you subscribe to the show. We're approaching 12,000 subscribers. Hit that sub button for year-round Sixers coverage. Decided to go live last minute here today, and it was another great live show. So thanks to everybody who tuned in. Stay tuned tomorrow for more Sixers content and every single day during this peak of the NBA calendar. For Trace, I'm Chase. This is Philadelphia 76ers Now. Thanks to all the real ones who hopped on board, joined the show, and hung out with us. What'd you say? Plug me in. Dog, I was 8 years old waiting at the airport with my family for the Sixers to return from L.A. from winning the championship. Wow. Dominant showing, too, against the Lakers that year. And the numbers that Moses Malone put up in that NBA Finals were stupid. I want to look at them real quick, actually. Yeah. Good stuff. The numbers that he put up that year, Moses Malone, in the 83 Finals against the Lakers were insane, dude. So they swept the Lakers 4-0. Moses Malone, NBA Finals MVP. Get a load of these numbers, right? 39 minutes per game, almost 26 points per, 18 rebounds, 1.5 steals, 1.5 blocks. Dr. J, 19 points per game. Andrew Toney, the Boston Strangler, 22 points per game. If he didn't get hurt, he could have been a great Sixer. Mo Cheeks in that series, 12, 5, 3, 2 steals, 2 blocks. 6 steals. Mo Cheeks, 15 points per game, 6 assists, almost 3 steals in that 83 Finals. And then Bobby Jones was 12, 5, 3, and 2. What a stat line for the Sixers with those individual players. Awesome stuff. All right, we're out. 76ers now in the books. Thanks again to everybody who tuned in. We'll catch you next time. Peace.